All right. It's NAWCQ weekend, or it's about to be, and we still have two more videos to do before we enter the main event on Saturday. So we've still got Sky Strikers, and we've still got everything else. Like the last video in this series is going to be everything else, just so we can wrap it up, I guess, in a timely fashion. So yeah, what's going on, you guys? Slim here to bring you guys preparing for Sky Strikers at the North American World Championship qualifier. There is no denying Sky Strikers has, without a doubt, been one of the most insane decks we've seen in the last year plus. It has been around that long, and it has done wonders. It has endless wins under its belt, endless tops. Consistency has been through the roof, and it has gotten hit on the list. There have been things that have happened. Kagari going to 1 was actually quite impactful. We still do see a decent amount of representation, but there's no denying that Sky Strikers have gone down. But I truly feel that, especially here in NA, the North American World Championship qualifier, I think we're going to see a decent amount of Sky Strikers. I say that because Sky Strikers is just that deck that is just consistent and works. I don't like really comparing it to Solomon Great, but I feel that they both do one thing I really like about decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that they're consistent and they do pretty much the same thing every game. I think Strikers also have kind of learned to favor to go second, so they do play. There's all these different builds that we'll talk about. There are the standard builds, or the builds that play nothing but 37 spells and 3 Ray. That's something that Marcello Barbari kind of first brought to the scene. He won his can't remember what event it was, but he won an event with it when it was actually crazy. You think to yourself, you don't play any hand traps or anything like that, you just play 3 Ray, it was nuts. But as we do always, we're going to talk about the deck's representation. We're going to talk about how to prepare to beat it, and your best side deck options, your best strategy against the deck, what to expect, yada yada yada. So let's get into it. So of course, representation. I think Sky Strikers is going to have a decent representation at the North American World Championship qualifier. I'm not sure if it's going to be as high as it would have been had Kagari not gone to 1. I think it'll still be up there though, because I know for a fact that we saw it the first week when I was at my San Jose Regionals. We saw how Sky Strikers still topped that event, and they did it with one Kagari was a huge hit. It definitely was. It took away that recursion, but it also basically made the Sky Striker players kind of manage their resources better. It made it to where they were able to they had to realize, okay, Kagari is valuable. You use Kagari at the most optimal time to recycle your Engage or your Widowmaker or whatever it is. And the real strength of the deck relied more in the end phase Shizuku, and it also relied more on multi-roll. And multi-roll, of course, I have made a whole video on multi-roll before, believe it or not. You guys should know this, but yeah, that card still being at 3 is what keeps the deck alive. It is the rinse and repeat process for the deck. It's the Spellbook of Judgment for the deck, and it's insane. Now, the one thing to say, people will say Strikers are fair, and I actually do agree to an extent. I feel like Strikers are not a build-a-board deck whatsoever. They don't put out 50 million negates and say break my board or you lose. They, like I said, they do favoring going second these days, and they try to do their best to break a board. They draw to 6 cards. The majority of them are spells. The minute they get 3 spells in the grave, you guys should know shenanigans happen, bonus effects happen. As Farfa quoted, bonus cards get collected with Engage. You draw an extra card off and Engage. You Engage again, guess what? You search and you get another bonus card. It keeps going. And overall, that is what keeps the deck strong, and that's why I feel the deck is going to definitely still be represented, and I think you should definitely not count it out at this year's Nationals. So things we talked about. Okay, they got 1 Kagari, it's fine. They still have the 3 Shizuku. They're normally trying to set up to 3 spells. Sometimes they'll go Kagari turn 1 if they need to, or they'll save the Kagari for later in the game, later in the turns. They'll end phase Shizuku, search what they need, and that's usually how it goes. They'll set some back row and just pretty standard stuff. And later on, of course, they're going to do things like Hayate you, they're going to Kaina you, and they Kaina you to stop you from attacking, to gain life and time. They Hayate you to get you down on life points 1500 at a time, set stuff in the graveyard, and then at that point they can make the Kagari to recycle something back important, yada yada yada. You guys should know this by now. And of course, if they have multi-roll, then everything just gets rolling, no pun intended. It definitely is without a doubt the strongest card in the deck. The ability to just reset all your stuff is nuts, and it's definitely a card that you want to address. So the best way to address this deck, so it used to be that you would try to negate the Kagari, try to negate the Shizuku. People would do that. You can still do that. It's not a terrible play, but everyone kind of realized that, yeah, I gotta hit the multi-roll. The best card to hit multi-roll, hands down, is Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre, without a doubt, has become like the kryptonite to Sky Strikers. They play it themselves. They play it in the main deck because of the mirror match. Hitting that multi-roll is so huge because if they can't recycle their resources, they have no way to really come back as strong as they normally would. I'm not saying they're out of the game completely if you Ogre one. Sometimes they can have a second one and it's just like, well, I guess, you know, you had two. So Ogre really can be a deciding factor in kind of ending their turn and leaving them low on resources so that you can just kind of fight back and win the game. So that's just very important. Ashe is, you know, very standard. You know, people like to Ashe the, you know, they like to Ashe the Shizuku at end phase because that does set back the opponent. You know, they try to set up their 3 spells. They have their back row set. They try to Shizuku to get another plus. You cut them off from that. You clear the Shizuku. You might have to deal with the Ray, and, you know, you just get past it and you keep going. Other hand traps, Phantasme is absolutely insane against the deck. They just go one monster at a time. You just drop a Phantasme, and the beauty of Phantasme, it's a big body, mulligans your hand, helps you draw like more outs to their deck, and then it's the ability to negate Widow Anchor is pretty nice. Like, oh, you got a Widow Anchor, okay, cool, negate with Phantasme, what do you got next? Like, they have to keep going. Like, it's kind of crazy. It basically absorbs a Widow Anchor, which I really, really like about that card. So that card is nuts against the deck. Prankatops, same thing, going second, summon a Prankatops, you're going to out at least 1 or 2 cards. Like, you can attack something by battle, out of back row, it's nuts. And also, if your deck has the ability to play a Kaiju on any Sky Striker link is utterly, like, game. You just shut off their back row completely. It's like, if your deck can actually play, like, any Kaiju monsters at all, and you just Kaiju them, and then you play, like, you don't have to worry about the back row. They have a monster in the main monster zone, and guess what? All the back row is dead, so it's pretty crazy. I think that, like I said, if your deck can play it, you play it, because obviously you're not going to use cards like Sphere Mode or Lava Golem against them. They rarely ever get to more than 1 monster unless they're trying to kill you, and they do have the ability to kill you these days. Hida is a hell of a card. You guys should know this, the Fire Charmer. It's really good. I've watched it, you know, against Salamangreat, against the mirror match, reviving Kagari, reviving any of the fire monsters, and then linking away into Boral Sword to actually kill the opponent is so insane. They also play what is it? They play the other topologic dragon, the bomber dragon. So being able to blow up the board, you know, you take 3,000. Like, it's just insane. They use the Hercules base, you know, they kill over 2 monsters, draw cards, you know, recycle everything. Like, it's so nuts that there are a lot of ways that Sky Strikers can go second and actually kill you, which is kind of nuts because you would think, you know, a deck that just goes 1 monster at a time can't really do that, but these days they can. So it's something you need to look out for as well. And like on that note, they have really kind of favored going second these days, especially the build I had talked about that Marcello had played, and that you could see Joshua Oyster's build. Like, all these builds were favoring a lot of times going second because you could play hand traps in the main. Marcello actually played no hand traps. He just played 37 spells and 3 Ray because all the spells just did work. Like, they all did something. They all contributed to setting up 3 spells in the grave, which was key for Sky Strikers. So being able to do that was insane. And, you know, then you just kind of just go forward. Your Widow Anchors do everything. Your Jamming Waves can clear stuff. Your Afterburner can clear stuff. You can just clear stuff so consistently that it was just, there was no reason not to take that strategy with the deck. So I really do like that a lot about the deck. It's something, like I said, if you're told to go first, like, you never know. You never know what deck you're going to be playing against, but don't be surprised if you actually run into a Sky Striker deck that likes to go second, because it seems to kind of be the way that the deck is having more success is actually going second. So keep that in mind. And of course, the very basic stuff that you can side deck to beat this deck, and this is all stuff that we all pretty much have in our side decks. Cards like Denko Sekka, Twin Twister, cards like Spell Cancel, Order, Anti-Spell, all these things all have different applications. Denko and Twin, you just summon a Denko into their back row. You don't worry about the back row. You just have to deal with the monster and the Ray. You get over that, you're good to go. All their stuff that's set is useless at that point if they can't get over the Denko. Twin is just amazing. Twin, discard a danger is kind of nice. You know, get a plus, pop 2 cards. You know, I don't have to explain that one. Anti-Spell is nice. If you side it going first, they're forced to set everything, and it you know, really sets them back a whole turn, which is great because a lot of times the way this format is, a turn is all you really need to get, you know, to sway the game back in your favor. Cards like Imperial Order are just auto game. Don't even need to say that. Spell Canceller is another card that has been talked about a lot. Now, this card is really, really strong. Like, I mean, it turns off all spells, so I mean, their whole deck is like crippled. I feel the only way they get out of it, and I have seen it before, but it's everything has to be going right for them. Like, they actually would have had to been able to activate spells if they don't have impermanence. Like, if they have an impermanence to turn off the Spell Canceller, they had it. But the only other way to get over Spell Canceller if they don't have impermanence is to have already gone first, and literally set up enough spells to where when they summon the Shizuku, your spell cancer loses enough attacks so they can run over it. And a lot of times they just can't get there. So spell cancer could be just an automatic blowout. So things like that are important to remember. There are also crazy interactions like when Ray is the problem. Like everyone talks about, yeah, I can get around all their back row, but that Ray recycling is such a pain. You can use cards as obscure as Necro Valley. Necro Valley has the ability to lock out any graveyard interactions. As a card I don't think a lot of people talk about. Shout out to my boy Gage Scapegoat. He actually talked to me about it, and it was something I had to mention in this video because he'd kill me if I didn't. And it was something that I thought was really interesting. The way Necro Valley is worded, nothing moves from the graveyard. So yeah, Ray can't float. You're playing Danger Thunder Dragons. You make a triple burst dragon. Ray can't float. It's pretty nice. Like that's how you kill them. That's how you OTK them. You Denko, make a triple burst. You just wipe the whole board and they're just done. So there's other little interactions like that. And one thing that I would say is that while there are so many ways to beat this deck has proven itself time and time again to be, in my opinion, the most resilient deck in the format because of just how it can play through so much. And when a deck is able to play through so much and still get to its end result, still get to its end game result, it's an amazing deck. It's definitely something I expect to see at the North American World Championship qualifier. Do I think it will win? I was a couple days ago, I thought, there could be this like crazy surge of Sky Strikers and maybe it could win. I'm not 100% sure right now. Right now, I'm kind of like 50-50 between that and, representation-wise, that and Salad. Everyone thinks Salad might win our event because of just, the sheer representation or just the sheer consistency. Blind Dweller, again, is a hell of a drug, so things like that work. I definitely think, these first 4 videos we've made have talked about, I think are going to be the 4 most represented decks in the format. And I also feel that even though we've seen from the past couple events, Sky Strikers haven't had as high of representation. Again, that was in Europe, that was in different parts of the world. We're here back in North America, and I'll tell you, people love their Strikers here. They love it. It's insane, and they do amazing things with it. So don't count the deck out. Take this simple, straightforward knowledge that I presented here, going into your side deck, going into your main deck, whatever, and you'll be good to go. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. You guys already know what to do. This stuff is all around. Hit the bell if you want, subscribe, all that stuff. And let me know in the comments below what your side deck strategy is against Sky Striker, or if you, as always I ask, if you are a person playing Sky Striker, how do you counter side for what your opponent is siding in against you? Because that's one thing you have to remember. A good player is always going to counter side for what the opponent is siding against them. You remember that and you'll be good to go. But yeah, we got one more video to go, you guys. Hopefully it'll get up here. I get this video up today. The other video gets up tomorrow. Everything is knocked out just in time for the main event on Saturday. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm already here in Pittsburgh with my boy Gage, so it's amazing. And yeah, I hope to see you guys Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching.